Good morning, Kevin. How are you, my man?
Kicking life square in the nuts. How are you?
When did you get in? You get in this morning or last night?
I don't see how that's your business. I'll be honest with you. I got in whenever I felt like it. How about that? No, I got in last night.
You did?
Yeah.
Do you still enjoy coming out doing stuff like this?
Just to see you and that.
Well, of course, me.
Sure.
In my shorts, my hat. Yeah, yes. No, do you still enjoy coming out and doing comedy?
I do. Yeah, I mean, I'm not here on prison furlough. You know, it's how I started. There's still nothing like it to be on stage, taking the audience for a ride of your choosing for an hour. You know, I mean, I love being an actor, and I hope they'd never ask me to stop. But you have no control over anything. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's not as interesting or exciting to the actual work itself. It's an exciting world to be a part of, and certainly it makes your mother happy to say that her son's an actor, but. You know, the doing of it will never compare to standing on stage and doing whatever. Do
you still get a rush when you get up there?
Every time.
You do?
Yeah.
Even still after all these years?
It's a ridiculous drug. I mean, I just directed this documentary film about comedy and about people who choose a life in comedy.
Has that come out yet? I was reading about that.
We just submitted to the Toronto Film Festival. Their deadline was the end of May.
What's the name of that? Well,
the thesis of the film is: do you have to be miserable to be funny? And so the title is "Misery Loves Comedy," and you know, it's everyone from Jim Gaffigan and Mark Maron and then also funny filmmakers like who started in comedy, and people may not even think of them as from that world, like Jon Favreau started in Second City. So he's in it, and Chris Guest and Jason Reitman and Judd Apatow. All these guys sat down with me, 70 people, and did the editing process of trying to cut through 70 hours of film to get an hour 40 has been an absolute nightmare. But yeah, it's.
And what did you determine? Do you indeed have to be miserable to be funny?
Well, for some, yes. For some, absolutely, yeah. But for a lot of them, a couple of them were able to articulate that comedians or social commentators, social satirists, whether it's television, radio, whatever the medium, you have to have experienced misery, of course, but you also have to articulate it in a comedic way that the audience can relate to. Mm-hmm. You can't just go up there and whine. Nobody wants to hear that. No one wants to hear about your misery. You have to make it universal. And so you have to, like a sociopath, for example, you know, has no actual connection to what they're doing. A comedian who has had their own misery has to be able to connect with the audience. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, is the part that hopefully will be interesting about the film.
So when you decide to make this documentary, do you finance this? You have a production company? Did you do this for someone else? You directed this?
I directed it. I was approached, actually, by a couple of producers who had coffee and donuts to offer. The thing about documentaries, there's no real money in it. But it was an extraordinary opportunity for me. You know, my internet live streaming chat show we just passed 5 years. So I had 5 years of experience of long form one-on-one interviews. So that certainly informed my ability to not only talk to funny people in a way that they don't normally talk, also because we're from similar trenches of battle. But also, it allowed me to book the talent. I mean, there was no shock that they came to me thinking, can you get to these people to get them to talk? So, you know, I had 5 years of booking my own thing. We just did our 200th show, which is nothing compared to your career. But for a guy who books them himself and spends an hour, 2 hours, I just finally had Tom Hanks on, 2 hours and 42 minutes. Couldn't shut him up.
Where do you record this? I watched your chat show.
Yeah.
I think the last time you were here, after you were here, I watched a few of the episodes. Where do you record the chat show?
We stream live on YouTube almost every Sunday.
Okay.
And you just dial us up at Kevin Pollak's chat show. So But
do you have like an office, or do you have?
No, it's a
studio.
It's a little studio.
Okay.
Yeah, not too dissimilar from the one we're sitting in now.
And why did you decide to do that? I mean, this is a serious question because
No, it's a damn good question.
I envision the people who are actors, comedians. It seems to me like your life would be very, very busy, and this is adding one more thing on top of it.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. I started out in stand-up comedy, love it madly, and can kind of work around the country and certain other countries when and how I choose, and that's exciting as hell. And then I got into the acting because it was a fantasy. I had no formal training. I auditioned hundreds of times before I got anything. I've done a few movies. I don't know the exact number, 72. And 6 of them good. And I got to a certain point where, you know, when an actor starts to get offers instead of having to audition, which fortunately for me happened after A Few Good Men. I was brought up to the major leagues with that film. And I held my own against giant movie stars, so they tell me. And then I started to get offers, you know. And that becomes a different experience from having to audition and jump through hoops. Now, you go through the rush of, how do I learn how to stop saying yes? Because when they offer you work, you know, look.
You want to say yes?
Whatever profession you're in.
Right.
What other job, when people offer you work, are you constantly saying no?
Right.
The truth is the quick knee-jerk answer is yes. So I did too many movies in the 90s. Literally 40 films in the 90s. Because A Few Good Men was 92, and then the offers started coming in.
And you said yes to everything.
I was a little girl who couldn't say no. I mean, it was absurd. And, you know, I joke 6 of them good because there's a lot of crap in there. But the truth is, you read the script's good. It doesn't have to be great. I mean, in the case of Usual Suspects, it was written by a 25-year-old. Nobody ever heard of this kid. It was directed by a 25. Nobody ever heard of this kid. My agent had to ask me to read the thing 10 times because, you know, if you have a few offers to talk about, you get on the phone with your agent, what's going on? And he'll tell you the offers that are in. He'll give you his opinion. And then you discuss which ones to consider next. And you look at the calendar and you try to – it's a battlefield. You know, there's no correct path to do any of this crap. It's just the one you choose. So he's telling me about The Usual Suspects. I said, who's in it? He said, Kevin Spacey. And I said, who else? Because this is 1994, 20 years ago. Spacey, like me, was a character actor. He wasn't a star in movies. I said, who else is in it? Gabriel Byrne. Oh, I liked him in The Miller's Crossing, the Coen Brothers movie. But that's the only thing I'd have seen him in. Who else is in it? Stephen Baldwin. All right, what else is going on? What other movies you got? You know, I mean, if you want proof.
And then Usual Suspects ends up, that's one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie of all
because
time.
It's lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
truly. And that script that 28 different financiers said no to, because it didn't star anybody famous. That script went on to win the Academy Award. That punk Chris McQuarrie was 26 when he won the Academy Award. He's in London right now directing Mission Impossible.
You know, I always wonder whatever happens to like a guy like some of these directors. You don't know. You know, you're the public face of the projects.
Right.
These guys who work behind the scenes, writers, producers, directors. You don't know what the hell happens to those guys. So the guy who made Usual Suspects has gone on to have a fantastic career. Then.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, when you're 26 and win an Oscar, I think he went right into the script doctoring business where they write giant checks for you to come save their script at the studio level, you know. And he and I created this TV pilot, which for all the networks bid for. It was within the year after he won the Oscar, so everybody wanted to be in business with him. We did a 2-hour movie pilot for NBC, and it never aired. They added another, what was it, Nightline? Dateline. Remember they had 4 Datelines?
Oh yeah, they had
right.
on all the time
in the 90s.
So they blew up a truck and they rigged it, and then they stopped running Dateline so
they
much.
added another Dateline, which cost them a couple $100,000 to make those things. You know, they banked the stories. Anyways, so Chris McQuarrie went on to a great writing career, and then eventually started directing movies. And he co-wrote the current Edge of Tomorrow.
That's that one with Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah, and Emily Blunt. I just saw it. It's pretty damn amazing. And now he's in London right now directing Mission Impossible 5. And he's having a hell of a career. And then, of course, the director is Bryan Singer, who did the X-Men and Superman. And we were talking about this chat show that you've done for the past 5 years, 200 episodes. And you sit down, you'll have people come in, you'll sit down, you'll do long-form interviews with them. Yeah, last Sunday, Adam Devine from Workaholics and also the Pitch Perfect movies, a great kid and an amazing talent. And, Yeah, so I have a research producer. He gives me a 30 to 60-page dossier on Saturday. Kills my Saturday. I got to study.
You read the whole thing.
I got to go through it and make my own 10 pages of notes.
What do you do? So you just make notes? I'll tell you how I do it. I get a packet. Here's my Kevin Pollak packet. Now it's a little bit different because you've been on, a few times before. So we
have a relationship.
Well, I don't. People have already heard.
Christopher Walken.
Our interview. Where did you grow up? What did your parents do? This kind of stuff. So it's a little challenging having people come back.
Yeah. Which is why I've never had the same guest twice on my show.
Hey, never book Kevin Pollak again.
Well, you're going to say what's new, right?
No. I was going to ask you.
What's old?
No, how you prepare for these interviews, because what I do, I get the packet, I go through, you'll see my notes in the margin here, and it's just a couple of words. It's not even a full sentence. It's just a couple of bullet point things that I can look at and get it. Is that what you do as well? You go through and you bullet point out what you want to ask or touch upon?
But look, this is a fantasy situation, a rather best case scenario for me, the alleged talent in this experience. You've done your homework. I'll do, 20 interviews while I'm here in town. And maybe one or two, like yourself, have actually give a damn and will look at it at research or whatever it is.
Have you gotten better, much better at it? I'm assuming you must have, because when you start something 5 years ago, you think, I could do this.
Right.
I'll bet if you go back and you look at it, you go, oh, man, why didn't...
Yeah.
The one thing that I do when I have an interview is I don't listen to the show back. I find a lot of I used to hear actors say, I don't watch any of my movies. And I'd think, oh, BS. Who wouldn't?
Right.
I understand it now, because if I ever listen to us, if we're on Best of or Vacation, I get in the car and our show is on, I hear myself, I immediately have to turn it off.
Yeah.
Because I start critiquing everything that I did. Why didn't I have this follow-up question? Why didn't I ask this? Why didn't I do that? Or whatever the case may be.
I go the other way. Every film I've ever done plays on a continuous loop on 7 different screens throughout my house. I can't get enough of me.
Have you ever gone back and looked at the stuff from 5 years ago on this chat show? Or do you think that you've gotten much, much better at your interviewing skills?
Absolutely not. I've never seen... and not because I'm afraid to, just because it would bore me to tears. Because it's weird to watch yourself in a movie. That's weird enough. Like, my greatest fear is that someone's going to catch me watching myself in a film. It's bad enough my girlfriend / fiance, I'm not sure from day to day which it is. She'll come in the kitchen or something, and something will be on in the background. Oh, you're watching yourself in Casino? No, I didn't even know it was on. But watching the interviews is a different thing, because it is painful. You do see all the flaws. You don't. Why didn't I ask this? Why didn't I ask that? But my thing, because it's we average 90 minutes to 2 hours with just one guest. I want it to be a conversation. At some point, it has to stop being an interview, and we're just talking. And get into the minutia, because ultimately, when people see Tom Hanks or Billy Bob Thornton, they see him for 6 minutes on a talk show, and they don't really get a sense at all who these people really are. It's only when you force them to sit down for a couple of hours that you break their spirit.
Has this made you, doing that show for the past 5 years, where you're the host, you're doing the interview, has it made you a better... interview subject, do you think, when you come in and you do interviews like this, or you go on TV? Do you think it's made you better?
It's probably just made me a little more critical of the interviewer.
Really?
You know what I mean?
As opposed to being more sympathetic to their play.
You would think.
You're actually more critical.
Yeah, because from stand-up comedy, you'll go into a town. I'll come in the night before, and I'll get up and do morning press. It's a part of the job. That I actually relish, because I have an opportunity to let people in their cars or homes know, hey, I'm in town, and please come out to Hilarities this weekend. We'll have a blast. It's a great theater, and I love working there. But at the same time, you do a lot of them. You do a lot of interviews in every city for 30 years. So now there's thousands of interviews, And again, maybe less than 5%, like yourself, actually give a damn, and we're having an actual conversation. You know what I mean? And so, since I guess I started doing my thing, I have less patience for people when I come in and they've done no research and they just want you to do all the work. You're on their show for 4 minutes or whatever on the Morning Zoo.
Right.
And
hey, it's Rover and the Breakfast Flakes.
Yeah. What are you, Kevin says here you're doing some kind of documentary. What the hell is that? Would you go study fish? What are you working on? And they don't know anything. They just see buzzwords.
Yeah.
Documentary, movie. I'm on the CBS show now, Mom, Allison Janney and Anna Faris, one of these Chuck Lorre shows.
Anna Faris is hot, by the way. I just had to throw
fantastic.
that out there. I've always sort of had like a crush on her. She's cute.
Nutty with the sexy and also ridiculously funny and talented. And now her husband is about to become a giant movie star.
Oh, yeah?
Chris Pratt, who we all know from Parks and Rec, stars in the new Guardians of...
that X, what
Guardians of the
Marvel
Universe,
or whatever the hell right.
And
they have so many comic book movies. It's hard to keep track of all these comic book movies.
And I'm not a fan of most of them, but I saw a trailer for this thing. I think it's Guardians of the Universe.
Something like that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Galaxy. Garden. Yeah, it's a long, dark novel, I think, and comic book that people are pretty excited about. But the trailer for this thing looks really, really cool.
Yeah,
actually. And then he's the new lead, the lead in the new Jurassic Park film that they're doing another one. So Chris Pratt, who I've had on the talk show, there's a great example. Here's a guy who's like, I don't know, 5th, 6th lead on Parks and Rec, and his story is pretty fascinating, where he came from. And he's a real guy's guy, He hunts and he fishes and he doesn't care that he kills animals, and people know about it. And it's a part of who he is. And no gruff, no crap, and hilarious. And so that was a real fascinating interview for me. And then I end up working with his wife, Anna Faris, on this TV show, and he'll come around to the tapings and the truth of the matter is, people come in your show all the time. I'm sure sometimes you're surprised, but after a while you stop being surprised. Oh, right. They are just idiots. They are just people, like all the stuff that goes wrong for these people in TMZ and all that stuff, it's the same crap in everybody else's life, only way heightened because of the spotlight.
Everyone's looking at it.
Yeah, I mean,
I searched for you on TMZ this morning. I always do that for every guest.
Do you really?
I do.
They covered my divorce. How slow of a news day was that? I mean, we're talking 10 years ago, but that's the reason my book is called How I Slept My Way to the Middle, is because as a character actor, I can get a table at a restaurant because the maitre d' recognizes me, or whatever that is that comes with show business. But paparazzi doesn't chase me down the street.
There was one, your divorce was in, 2005, I believe.
Sure.
TMZ, the last thing for Kevin Pollak that I saw was 2008. So the guy has a real knack for staying out of trouble or staying out of the limelight with TMZ.
Well, also just be a working stiff, as a character actor, you asked me earlier, why do I need to do this talk show when I've got acting and stand-up going? And at a certain age, I sort of realized if you're not proactive in your own life and career, you're waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah.
So the mantra was, if you're not creating, you're waiting. And the actor's thing is you wait for the phone to ring. So what the hell are you're waiting for life to happen? That's ridiculous. So just on a happenstance, I was visiting a friend who had this little studio space, and I walked into the studio space and I said, I think I want to do a Charlie Rose but fun from here. And I'd never thought that sentence in my life. I don't know why it came out of me, and it did. And then unfortunately for me, my friend said, how soon can you start? Really, and I was screwed. That was it.
And are you guys able to make any dough off of it, or
$6 billion will be spent? No, $6 billion will be spent this year on advertising on the internet.
Yeah.
That's an actual.
So you're
statistic.
making
you get sponsors.
You're making a little bit at this point. Yeah,
you get sponsors. I mean, I pay my crew a stipend, to come in. It's a ragtag team of 5 people, but I got 4 cameras, and it live streams. I got live editing. There's a little device called a TriCaster. So they used to be a truck. They still do at the big football games with 17 cameras and the director calling off the game.
Right.
So now there's a machine called a TriCaster where you can put 6 cameras into it and live edit with one little toggle.
We have it back there. That's what's running our RMG TV. Yeah, which you're right, people. I'm certainly not getting a huge piece of the $6 billion pie, but
neither am I, by the way. But the truth is, as long as a crew is covered, because I lose money out of 207 Sundays that we've done the show. I've probably only had sponsors 120, 140, maybe. So a lot of the time I'm paying the crew out of my pocket, but. Listen, I've got 2 hours with Seth MacFarlane, 2.5 hours with, Kevin Smith, Eddie Izzard, Tom Hanks. These longest interview, as it turns out, these people will ever give. Christopher Guest, who's a tough interview, who I've known forever. Jon Favreau talking about going from Second City to making movies. So with the documentary Misery Loves Comedy, I found, so you had the chat show experience. That's going great. These people approached me about finding the dark side of comedians. This was a golden opportunity to. So when I look at that, directing this documentary would have never really happened. Not in a million years, had I not just spent 5 years on that talk show.
Yeah.
So there's the byproduct of all that work. So if I had to pay for the crew out of my pocket for half the shows, I got to direct this documentary, and the company that funded that is co-financing a. So
you made money in a roundabout way, basically.
Yeah, and now they're going to co-finance a script for me to direct, like a detective type contemporary noir.
Are you doing you're not doing the Columbo routine, this detective movie of yours?
No. We're going to get a leading man for the detective. It's something I'm going to direct, but that came also because of the documentary, which happened from the chat show, and so you got to spin as many plates, you got to diversify, and if you're not creating, you're waiting.
Kevin Pollak is here with us. He'll be at Hilarities tonight at 8 o'clock, Friday 7:30 and 10, and Saturday 7 and 9:30. I'll give you the number for tickets in a moment. And he has his book, How I Slept My Way to the Middle, Secrets and Stories from Stage, Screen, and Interwebs. You brought up Kevin Smith that was on your chat show.
Yeah.
I just had John Lovitz in here a few days ago.
Oh, did you?
Huge feud between those two. They hate each other. Kevin Smith and John Lovitz, because Kevin Smith he has a podcast, and he used to do it from the John Lovitz Theater. They had some falling out over money, and John Lovitz
he loves to pick a fight, Lovitz.
He seems to, he always, every time he's in here, he has a new person that he
he's the oldest 9-year-old I've ever met.
So you're telling me that he can kind of he's easy to get into a fight with, John Lovitz. He always has to be in a fight.
I love John. He really. I started out in stand-up comedy with Dana Carvey in San Francisco, and Dana got SNL the same time as John. So that's how I met John and hung out with him over the years. And he's hilarious and makes me laugh ridiculously hard, and really is the oldest 9-year-old I've ever met. And he will find a problem with everything.
He'll probably now have an issue with you.
I hope so. It would be great for me, because he won't shut up about it.
I bring you up sometimes because one of the times that you were here, you said, acting, I asked you how hard is acting, because you were a stand-up, you got into acting.
Yeah.
I said, how hard is it? And you said, it really is not that hard. At least that's the answer you gave to me at the time.
It's about memorizing. Can you memorize well? If your memorization skill is good, and you can relax in front of the camera, that's 92% of it.
Because I've repeated what you've told me. I said I've told many people, actors that have been in here, and I say Kevin Pollak was in. He told me it's not that difficult, and they all take exception.
Do they really?
Oh yeah. It's
Crybabies.
I've tried. I don't know if I told you the story. I told someone the story. Maybe it was after you were here the last time, that I was sat on the toilet. I was taking a dump, and I was thinking about, I was reading Entertainment Weekly, and it was about, some movie or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And I go, geez, this person seems like a real dumbass, but they're a huge actor. I don't even remember who it was. And So I tried to actually just memorize a paragraph or two out of the article and then just, say it back.
How was that for you?
I couldn't do it. It was difficult. And the thing is I got to the point where and then I'd say it out loud. Then I'd look back and I'd go, oh, I got that one or two words wrong. Like the gist of it was right, but it wasn't exact. Yeah. I assume when you're making a movie, they want it to be exactly the script. Or
a lot of times they do. Certainly in the case of A Few Good Men, Aaron Sorkin wrote that script. It was a play that ran 500-plus performances, so it was words you need to say correctly in the right order. And it becomes a skill like any other thing, whether it's a sport, golf, tennis, whatever. You got to play 3 or 4 times a week to be any good at it. You get muscle memory. It's pretty much that. I'm pretty fortunate, I guess, because of the memorization skill that I've developed over the years. It just starts to come natural after a while. But at the same token, I'm also not doing a lot of soul-searching, gut-wrenching performances that some of these actors do all the time. So maybe it's easier for me than it is for them.
Yeah.
But
you're not like Daniel Day-Lewis living in character 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. Or yeah. I mean, when I did Casino with De Niro, who I could never call Bob because I would feel like an ass. He and Martin Scorsese, who I could never call Marty because I'd feel like an ass, they like to do 30 takes of every scene, every setup. I'm pretty much done after take 3. You're going to get everything in the first 2-3 takes.
So 4 through 30 are exactly the same from Kevin Pollak.
No, they're just weaker and weaker because I start to hear myself saying these words over and over again. So the memorization skill, the real work, the gift that you have to have is not just being able to memorize, but to recall that information in the correct order and make it not appear as though you're an idiot trying to remember your lines. That's the work.
I haven't seen Casino in a long. Did you play the guy who ran the casino? That you were kind of the figurehead guy that they had.
Front man, they call it.
God, I haven't seen that movie in a long time. That's a good movie. I remember when it came out, it sort of had. The reviews, at least this is a long time ago, the reviews were sort of middle of the road for that, right? But
because it came out after Goodfellas. If it came out and there was no Goodfellas, it would have been Scorsese's masterpiece.
Yeah.
And not because I'm in the movie 9 minutes. I had no invested interest.
Not that he's timed it or anything.
Yeah, but if you that's exactly 9 minutes 14 seconds. But if you it's on the screen. It's on one of the 7 screens every 20 minutes. If you watch that film and pack a lunch because it's long, it's pretty damn masterful. And also, if you love Vegas and you want to know about the inner workings.
Yeah, I grew up in Vegas.
Oh, the moment in time in the 70s that film depicts is just extraordinary.
Yeah, it's and Vegas is. Well, I moved to Vegas in the let's see, I guess in the late 80s.
80s, yeah.
And so by that time, it had already changed. It's at the end of that movie where they talk about how it was taken over. Right, exactly. That's exactly what happened to it, and it's definitely not the same. I think that movie is also the kind of movie that you watch. You might get more out of that movie the second time that you watch it than the first time that you watch it.
Yeah. But so, anyways, I would watch this the great, brilliant De Niro do the scene slightly different 30 times and think, he's working way too hard. I mean, and I realized, well, I'm just a lazy ass. That's what this is. And I just did a movie in New Orleans, and the director at some point, said, you really are great in those first 2-3 takes, aren't you? Because I told him up front, I don't know how many takes you like to do, but you're pretty much going to get the best of me in the first 2-3 takes.
Yeah.
And because it just becomes less interesting, quite frankly. I'm an organic actor. What a lot of actors go to school and study and do theater and try to learn how to be natural, how to be comfortable, and therefore real and believable. Well, as it turns out, that's all I can do. I can't cry on cue. I can't feel the pain of a dead relative and recreate that for the camera 17 takes in a row. I don't have the technical abilities. But you turn the camera on, and I'm going to be believable in whatever part I'm playing, because as it turns out, That's all I can do.
Did you take any acting classes? Nothing. So Kevin Pollak grows up. You grew up in San Jose. You get into stand-up comedy.
Right. San Francisco is where I was born, raised in San Jose. Yeah.
You get some success doing stand-up comedy.
Rose to the top of the scene in San Francisco in the late 70s, early 80s, yes.
You have an HBO special that you put out, and then I think your first movie came after that, right?
My second HBO special came out the same time as A Few Good Men, and however people discover you is how they know you. So fortunate for my acting career, almost everyone saw A Few Good Men, and it overshadowed 15 years of stand-up comedy in a nanosecond.
How did you get that role? I mean, because you had been in one movie, I think, before that, I believe, one or two. Willow, I know.
Well, only a couple that you would have heard of. Ricochet with Denzel Washington.
Which one was that?
Ice-T, John Lithgow plays the villain. Not a great film.
Is that where they... I have two Denzel... That's not the one where they inject him with drugs.
Yes.
Oh, that is?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
And I did Avalon, Barry Levinson, a Baltimore set film, which was a sweeping, huge family saga that 9 people saw, but is a gorgeous film and a great experience for me. And Willow, of course, the George Lucas, Ron Howard directed, which was, a moderate success. And A Few Good Men was a juggernaut. I mean, it starred giant actors, success-wise, of course, and I happened to be working with Rob Reiner on a little TV thing that him and Christopher Guest created that nobody saw. But because I was working on that and in Rob Reiner's face while he's casting A Few Good Men, it's the timing. It's sure crazy blind luck. And I talk about it in the book. Rob Reiner approached me one day while we were working on the TV thing, and he said, I'm casting this movie right now that I'm going to be directing next called A Few Good Men. It was a Broadway play. I got Tom Cruise to play the attorney, and I think we're going to get Jack Nicholson to play the crazy colonel. But there's this part of Tom's co-counsel and friend that you're kind of perfect for. I got an offer out to Jason Alexander, but if Seinfeld gets picked up for a second season, he's not going to be available, and you'd kind of be great for this. So I started immediately praying for Seinfeld's success.
He's writing NBC. I love this show.
Yeah, in every language possible. And the truth is, the first season of Seinfeld was on Friday nights. It wasn't on a Thursday following Cosby or whatever. It was called The Seinfeld Chronicles. They only did 4 episodes. It was absolutely a death door. And it was a fluke that it got picked up for a second season. And that changed the course of my entire career in a heartbeat. And again, if I had not been in Rob Reiner's face every single day at work, he would have never thought of me.
When you're working with Rob Reiner on a TV project, and you know that everyone in Hollywood knows every project that everyone's doing, or you knew that he was working on A Few Good Men. I'm assuming.
Actually, I didn't, only because that was so early in my career. I didn't have my finger on the pulse of anything.
Because I was going to ask,
but in real show business, people
right now,
they knew.
I was going to ask because if I would wonder while you're working on that TV project whether you were sort of hoping that he was going to ask you,
nuzzling up,
right? Sort of suggesting or whatever.
Yeah. I would have. You're not wrong. You're not wrong to think that. I learned from Oliver Platt 20 plus years ago. When you're socializing with someone and they say, I'm going to direct this movie, you immediately say, how's my part? That's it's hilarious. But I noticed when he did it was like, oh, he's actually not kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to go after it. Sometimes you got to go after it. Absolutely.
By the way, Kevin Pollak is going to be at Hilarities tonight, Friday and Saturday. I'll give you the number for tickets here. 216-241-7425 is the number to get tickets.
There'll be a lot more Christopher Walken during the show.
Yes,
than there has been this morning.
If you had, you just did this documentary on comedians.
Misery Loves Comedy.
You have another project that you said that they decided to work on after that. You do the chat show. You have stand-up comedy.
CBS.
You have that. You have your movie career. All of that. What is it that you wish you could do? If I said, Kevin, I'm a big executive. I'm a big entertainment executive.
I own show business.
For the next year, you can work on whatever you want, and you can have whatever amount of money you want. What would you do?
Well, now that I've dipped my toe in the writing directing thing, I mean, I've been a member of the Writers Guild for 20 years, and I've written a few things over the years that got made, and a lot of things that hadn't got made. And just started to direct, and that is kind of amazing. But shock and amaze is the fact that last year, in the middle of the season, I was asked to join this show, Mom, for Chuck Lorre. And I'd heard from friends who'd done sitcoms over the years, live and multi-camera in front of an audience, that it was the greatest job in the world because, you know, the hours are terrific. You start around 10 a.m., you finish in the early afternoon, 3 of the 5 days. And it wasn't until I started to do it that I realized everything I had experienced from a stand-up comedian standpoint, being live on a stage, why I don't need to do theater. I don't need theater. I can go live. And you asked me when we first started, do you still like doing it? And I immediately insisted there was nothing better than standing live in front of an audience. And then the acting part where you can do multiple takes. If you screw it up, you can do it over again like in movies. That's also in the sitcom world. In fact, the live audience loves when the actors make mistakes in the set, you know, and they have to do it again. You can swear in front of the live, you know. And so I've enjoyed working on this Mom show in a ridiculous level on every single thing I've learned over all these years, every instinct, every ability that I've been able to bring to this thing. And then because Chuck comes originally from Roseanne, writing pathos into a sitcom, I don't know how many folks out there have seen this show, Mom, with Allison Janney and Anna Faris. There's some pathos in there. You know, they're both recovering alcoholics, and they got some dark side. The show's about redemption, and it's ridiculous and silly and stupid at times also. But shock and amazement. I wouldn't know this a year ago if you had asked me this question. I would love to continue working on this Mom show.
That's what you would do, really.
It's a crazy fun job, a ridiculously fun. I mean, I kind of stopped watching sitcoms because of all the great half-hour quirky stuff that's being done on cable and single camera stuff.
Right.
And I even mentioned Parks and Rec and other stuff, the single camera shows. Curb Your Enthusiasm, all these various things. Veep now on HBO.
Right.
I'm madly in love with Louie on FX, you know. And the multi-camera things seemed a little
outdated.
A little outdated, and a little fake, you know. And it wasn't until I got into this damn thing that I just found my groove. I mean, it was truly shocking to me. When Chuck Lorre, who has Big Bang Theory, Mike and Molly, 2.5 Men, you know, this guy is beyond the 800-pound gorilla in CBS and Warner Brothers world where they shoot the show, but he's masterful at doing this thing, and I swear to you, it's blown my mind how much fun this is to do and how great of a weird opportunity that fell out of this.
So in other words, what he's saying is, I'd say you can do for the next year, have whatever money you want. He'd do exactly what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
Is what you said that you were engaged.
For 4 years, no plans to get married. I wanted her to know I was bona fide in my.
Who doesn't want to get married, you or her or both?
Well, see, I knew she didn't want to get married before I asked.
Man, you're smart.
Yeah,
this guy's a genius.
I put in 20 years on the first one. I learned all there was to learn, and so the second one, I thought I've got to do this.
I was telling the story before you came in, as I did the last time before you came in, that the first time you were ever on the show, which was a long time ago, we were at the other studio. You were going through that divorce, and I think you said that I think you're. Your new girlfriend or whoever was out here with you the first time, and I said, Kevin Pollak came in. I was a big fan. He was such a douche the first time he came in. I hated him. He left. I hated the guy. And then the second time that you came in, they said, do you want to have Kevin Pollak on? I said, no, the guy was a dick. And then I said, you know what, bring him in, and I'm going to tell him what a dick he was last time he was here. And then I did, and you said, well, I was going through a divorce. You sort of explained the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is this the same girl from back then, or how long have you been this girl that you're engaged to? How long have you been together with her?
Girl.
It's the same. It's the same girl.
Yeah, she just turned 32, but she reads at a 34-year-old level.
Do you have any kids?
I've seen children,
but none of yours.
Works out on paper.
None of yours.
No.
You still have you were married. Your first marriage was 20 years long?
20 years, yeah.
Do you still have a relationship with her, or is it just it got to the point where you don't even talk anymore?
It was as amicable as I I think is possible. We mostly communicate through emails now, but it's been 8-9 years. So, she's gone on with her life. I've gone on with mine. And we check in with each other on a fairly regular basis just to give updates. And, so, yeah. I mean, I feel good about how that went, and I feel considerably grateful for how the new one has gone.
You said TMZ reported on your divorce. Like, did they have anything
no, the truth
salacious in there or anything?
No, it was just they literally reported that I was getting divorced. That was it. That was the entire news story. And Kevin Pollak's getting a divorce. And then someone on the show would say, oh, I didn't even know he was married. You know what I mean? It's like I'm a blip. That's the reason the book is called How I Slept My Way to the Middle. You've heard it's lonely at the top? Yeah. I'm telling you, it is fantastic in the middle, honestly, because I've been around those giant movie stars. I've seen that supposedly enviable life. And it's because you think, well, if you could have anything in the world at your feet, at your beck and call, that's the fantasy. Well, it is, unless the paparazzi and the attention and all of that is a part of it. So nobody wants to hear those people complain. Probably nobody wants to hear me even mention the fact that it may be difficult life with paparazzi because, oh, poor thing, you got to know it's part of it. If you can't appreciate that, you're an ass. But until you walk a mile in those shoes,
right,
you have no idea that you have to send out a fake car out of the building in New York that you're supposedly in, that the paparazzi will chase, so that you can then take the second car. If you're Brad Pitt, if you're Bruce Willis, if you're some of these people, that's the way you must live.
But why do you think, you bring up, you had Tom Hanks on your chat show.
Why does he not need?
Why? Here's a guy who is one of the biggest movie stars of the past, however many. Yeah.
In history, yeah.
Now, this guy doesn't have all that nonsense.
No.
He doesn't. You never see anything about him. Why? What's the difference?
I do think you have a point, which is if you lead the most seemingly normal, seemingly boring life and have no interest in the nightlife outside of your family, then they will get bored with you, the paparazzi and the TMZ. They will get bored with you, and they go, he's a waste of time. What's Kanye and what's her head?
The Kardashians.
Yeah.
Well, this Kanye West, who's always, they're following him around, and he's picking up chairs and throwing them at photographers. So God knows what the guy is doing. That feeds into it. Are they doing this on purpose to perpetuate them staying in the news, or does this really irritate them? I don't know.
I would assume it's both.
Yeah.
I would assume sometimes they're irritated and sometimes they're fabricating. And sometimes they don't even realize they're fabricating, but they like the attention. Some of them get addicted to that attention, and they just become bad boys, bad girls, because they're being followed around. It's, they get lost in the fantasy of that twistedness. And then there's someone like Tom Hanks, who, fact of the matter is unbelievably creative. You talk about spinning plates. This guy's just ridiculous. He said yes to being on my chat show 4 years ago and was on, this last, I guess it's December now, so it's half a year ago. But said yes 4 years before that. We could never work out a time. I don't like to bug people, so I would check in every now and then with an email. Hey, how are these dates? Man, I'm going to be in New Zealand working on this thing. So, but here's a guy who's nose to the grindstone, is raising his family, and there's nothing sexy or exciting about his lifestyle from a salacious standpoint that these parasites desperately
What's been your worst experience with the media over your long career?
I don't know that there is a worst, quite frankly. It was probably because I was hanging out with one of those people.
Yeah.
And again, for me, any attention's not bad. I mean, I remember when I did Grumpy Old Men in Minnesota, Daryl Hannah and I went to a Timberwolves game when that franchise was about a year old. And so we got courtside because,
you're in Minnesota, and you're the biggest thing to be in Minnesota in the past 100 years.
They couldn't get Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau to go to a Timberwolves game. It was me and Daryl Hannah. So there were photos of the two of us, and she was dating John Kennedy Jr. at the time. So they made a little thing out of that, and what are you gonna do but laugh?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
If I were you, I'd be talking. Oh yeah, she's cheating on,
right.
with Kevin Pollak. Yes.
Yeah. No.
So no plans to get married, even though you've been engaged for 4 years.
No. Yeah. No plans. And
is that why you have these rings? You have 2 rings on. They're on your middle fingers. Is there any special significance to these?
Those are the fingers they fit.
Yeah. All right. So there's no special code or anything like that. I know all these people from California. I don't know what they have their little Kabbalah bracelets. They have all this crap. I didn't know. Maybe the middle ring is marriage equality. I'm standing up for. I don't know.
It is obnoxious, isn't it? No, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
It really is obnoxious. And every now and then something good comes out of it, but not very often. Like the efforts to remove smoking from restaurants and bars. That started in California.
It did.
But, for every one of those that actually takes and helps people in the long run, there's 47 of them with the ridiculous bracelets and the rings. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is an absolute truckload of crap.
We'll have more gluten-free diets coming out of California.
Which I better have Jamie. That is the thing that drives us the most insane. Those ridiculous trends like the gluten-free. Because you go to these parties or functions or whatever, and you'll hear people say those words, and you just want to strangle them.
And it lasts for about a year, and then it's the next thing that the Hollywood people are into. They're in.
And you see right through them when they say, "Is it gluten-free?" What do you care? Let me ask you this, knucklehead. What's gluten?
Yeah,
they couldn't answer.
I think I saw Jimmy Kimmel do a bit on that, or someone did a bit, and they went to one of these parks, like in Pacific Palisades or something, and all these guys running around, and you a gluten? Oh, absolutely, totally gluten free. What's gluten? Blah blah blah.
I shouldn't eat bread. That's all they can tell you. By the way, look at any diet. You should cut out bread and pasta and sugar.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. It's a diet trend.
Kevin Pollak is going to be at Hilarities tonight, 8 o'clock, Friday, 7:30 and 10, Saturday, 7 and 9:30. Here's the number for tickets, 216-241-7425. That's 216-241-7425. His website, kevinpollak.tv, is that correct? Is that where you can get the chat show and everything?
Yeah, the chat show's all over iTunes and Hulu, and you just Google Kevin Pollak's chat show.
And then the book is called How I Slept My Way to the Middle. Mm-hmm. And that is available in stores right now?
Every way you can get a book.
When did this come out? How long ago did this come out?
I don't know that people buy books anymore. But
you get it all ebooks. That's what I do on the iPad or whatever.
I'll be signing copies, of course, in the lobby after the show because I'm not an idiot. But yeah, whatever bookstores and stuff.
You can get that in stores now. How I Slept My Way to the Middle. Kevin, it's always a pleasure having you
now, after the first one.
After the first one, that's right. Yeah. Well, I think you were going through the divorce, and I think that the girlfriend was. I think the story you told me. I think this might have been. It was her family from out here, or was she here with you or something? Pittsburgh. Okay. Yeah. So she might have even been here with you or something that trip or whatever. But you were not a.
It was the second trip she was with me.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think that sometimes when you go in, when a guy like you comes in, you do a morning radio show. Sometimes you never know what the guy's getting at. I've had guys sit there and they think that I'm trying to antagonize it. What was the guy's name that wanted to attack me? The black
Davidson?
Guy, Tommy Davidson. Yes. He sat here, and I was asking him questions, and these were legitimate questions.
Sure.
He thought that I was. What did he think I was trying to do to him?
Coke and the porno shop.
So I'm asking him about stuff. It's the first time that I've interviewed him, and I'm asking him these questions because I'm actually curious about. I'm not trying to set him up or to make him look any sort of way or whatever.
He felt attacked.
I don't even think he felt attacked. He felt as if I was trying to set him up for something, that I was going to try and get some tidbit out on the internet or whatever. I don't know. And then after, so he was sort of difficult during the interview. Then after the microphones we turn off, the guy gets up and he's walking out and he turns around and he goes, "If this were high school, I would have beat your mother effing ass." And I'm like, "What?" And so I'm like, "Do it then." It turned into a big thing. But sometimes you come in, you don't know what the the agenda of the morning show is, or the interviewer is. So maybe you were a little on guard that day, thinking that I was going to try and get to the bottom of your divorce.
Yeah, it might have. The news thing might have happened, or the truth of the matter is that was a very, very unhappy transition.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not surprised at all that
when you say transition, is that did you
no, out of that life of 20 years together,
right,
into whatever new life I was going to have.
Did you go right from the wife to the new girl?
Not that you know about.
Is that what caused the transition out of the 20-year marriage?
Oh, no.
It just got to be.
No, it was over for me a good 4 years before I ended it, because you just wake up one day and you just know.
It's hard though to get. I've been in relationships.
It took me 4 years to get out.
I've been in that same
4 years.
Place.
4 years. Because I didn't know how to devastate one of the nicest people I'd ever met in my life.
Yes, I think that happens. Yes, that happens. It's happened to me. It happens to guys. And what ends up happening is
or women. I mean, either side of it.
Sure.
Whoever's the one to leave. And then my friends at one point said, "You know what you've done here? You've chosen her happiness over yours, and you'll just wither away and die. You're not leaving because you don't want to ruin her happiness.
Yeah.
And what consequently you'll have none."
And what even it translates, even though that you realized, look, I'm not happy in this marriage, and you're staying with it because you don't want to devastate your wife.
Yeah.
They can pick up on this subconsciously. You're not being as good of a husband as you should be. So you're not doing. It's very. I mean, the thing is, I've had people come in here or people will call up. What should I do? Or I'm in this relationship. It's so easy to tell people what they should do.
Yeah. Giving advice is the easiest thing in the world.
When you're actually the one living it, it's much more difficult.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, go see him at Hilarities. I may even go. I've never seen his stand-up in person.
What is your problem with that?
With going? I don't leave the house. I'm one of these guys that I'm sort of, this is my... I don't think I'm a crazy or I'm not, like real out there. But this show is sort of therapy to me. I'm sort of an introvert.
Sure.
And so I was a shy kid growing up. And I get uncomfortable here in town. We're on in I don't know how many different cities, but here in town, it's different than anywhere else. So here in town,
they're going to be in your face.
It's like you're a huge celebrity here in town. And I don't mind that. I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. But people don't realize I am a shy guy
when you're away from the microphone.
Yeah. And so
I'll tell you what, we'll put you in a place that no one will even know you're there.
Up with the lighting guy or whatever.
Yeah. Honestly, I would greatly appreciate if there was any way, shape, or form we could get you down to one of the shows.
I will try and do that.
All right. Just so you know.
Go see him at Hilarities. The number for tickets, 216-241-7425. I have to take a break. We'll be back with the Thursday hookup, and go see the great Kevin Pollak this weekend, all weekend long at Hilarities. Kevin, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll be right back on Rover's Morning Glory. Hang on.
Rover's Morning Glory.